Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ahmed Elmeligy and today I'll be sharing my story with how I tore my ACL. If you don't know me, I'm a fairly active guy. I run, I swim, I go to the gym, and as of recently I picked up a lot of new winter activities just because there was nothing better to do in the winter of 2020 with COVID. So I was cross-country skiing, I was snowshoeing, I was doing downhill skiing, and ice climb. The one activity that I really liked was downhill skiing. So I thought of myself on Boxing Day I should go out to Lake Louise and go ski there. And that's what I did. The plan was to ski all of the morning and later in the afternoon to meet a friend in Lake Louise and go skating. That never ended up happening because I got into a bit of an accident when I was skiing in Lake Louise. So after spending, I would say 4 or 5 hours skiing, did some green runs, blue runs, and one black diamond run, and I did fairly well. I was very comfortable. I wasn't falling. I fell maybe twice the whole day, and my bindings released the 2 times. But then on my way home in the last run, I'm thinking about the next time that I'm gonna come and the kind of skis that I want because I was using rentals at the time. So I was thinking, oh yes, next time I'll have my own skis. Which ones do I want to get? And I got distracted for a little bit of time. And what ended up happening is the front of my skis got caught on fresh snow and I ended up falling in an awkward twist. And with that awkward twist, my left binding never released and I could feel it right then and there. My knee is bending in a direction that it doesn't want to go in, and I felt the pop, I heard the pop, and that was it. Right then and there, I knew I screwed up my knee. So I fell on the ground, I wiped out, I was face to the ground, and I was in so much pain, but I was screaming so hard, not from the pain, but from the anger, because I knew I messed up my knee big time. And it comes with the territory, comes with the sport, but just so many things flashed through my head about all the other activities that I wanted to do that winter, including ice climbing, downhill skiing, and cross-country skiing. I had so much activities that I wanted to do that winter, and I knew right then and there I'm not going to be able to. But even then, I was thinking even beyond that. I was like, what kind of activities am I going to be able to do this summer? A couple of people came to my aid right away, and that helped. They called the ski patrol. The ski patrol showed up a couple of minutes later. He attended to me, and after maybe 5-10 minutes, I started feeling better. And I told him, you know what, let me try to stand. And that didn't go so well. As soon as I tried to stand, I fell back down. Just my knee was yellow. It didn't even feel like it was there. It was such a weird sensation. When they took me in to the triage center, they did not have any diagnostic imaging tools, so they couldn't x-ray it or anything like that. So they told me you have to go to the hospital. As soon as I got into the hospital, I went to emergency. A doctor saw me, and they didn't want to tell me exactly what it was because they weren't sure. The only diagnostic imaging they had was x-rays. They didn't have an MRI machine in the hospital. So when they took the x-ray, the bone looked fine. There was nothing out of the ordinary, so I'm lucky in that sense. But then when they were moving it around and how I was responding, they knew I damaged the soft tissue pretty well, but they didn't want to diagnose me for a torn ACL yet because they weren't too sure. That by itself is annoying because I didn't have closure that given day, and I knew there were still more follow-ups to find out what happened to my knee. I should go back a little bit and say I am very fortunate to have the friends that I have, because if it wasn't for my friend that I was going to go skating with in Lake Louise, who was close by, he actually came and picked me up and took me to the hospital. So if it wasn't for him, I would have taken probably an ambulance. Most probably would have taken longer for an ambulance to come out to the ski resort and pick me up. So I'm lucky in that sense that I had my friend to pick me up and take me to the hospital. And then he was nice enough to take me to his house in Calgary, where I spent a couple of nights recovering, the initial recovery because I wasn't able to take my car from Lake Louise and drive all the way to Edmonton. So I spent a couple of nights in Calgary, and him and another friend of mine, they were nice enough to go back to Lake Louise and pick up my car and bring it to Calgary. And then my friend that I stayed at and another friend of ours, both of them drove up to Edmonton. So my friend that I stayed at took his own car and drove up to Edmonton. And then our third friend drove my car with me in it up to Edmonton so that I can come home with the car. And then both of them drove back with the friend that I stayed at's car. So it was pretty cool of them. I'm very grateful for the friends that I have, because that made that part of the trip that much easier. But at that point, I'm back in Edmonton. And with me back in Edmonton, it was one of the, I would say, most depressing times in my life, where I was just in bed. I couldn't move much. The pain was intolerable. The first maybe week or so, it's just in so much pain. Getting up was painful. Going to the washroom was very painful. But I right away, within 2 days of being back in Edmonton, so 4 days after tearing my ACL, I went in and I saw a physiotherapist, and I started working with them right away with the exercises they gave me. And at the time, it was just so uncertain. Like, and that's why I'm making this video. It's just I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. There's a lot of people that talk about coming out of ACL reconstruction surgery, but very few people talk about what it's like tearing the ACL initially and how that feels like. I think it varies from people to people, and depending on the injury too. If it's a clean-cut ACL, from what I understood and from what I've read, it doesn't seem to be that bad. But when there's meniscus damage, when there's MCL damage, it is bad. So the final diagnosis that I got about a month later, once I got my MRI and I've seen a sports medicine doctor, is that I've torn my ACL completely. That's gone. I'm not going to recover itself, unfortunately. And a grade 2 tear in my MCL and a couple of tears in my meniscus, and the meniscus itself is well shifted in location. So with all of that combined, I can tell you the first couple of weeks are horrible, especially if you are a fairly active person. I felt very down because I was put in a position that I was never in before. I've always taken my health and my physical activity for granted, but I couldn't do anything for that time. If you're going through this and you're watching this video now, I feel for you. If you want to talk to somebody, just know that I'm here. I would love to talk to you because I know how it felt like. At the time, I tried to reach out to some of my friends that had torn ACLs, and I was lucky to reach some of them. Learned a little bit about their experience, but their experience seemed to be very different than mine. So my advice to you, if you have friends that have went through it, don't talk to just one of them. Try to talk to as many as you know, just because everybody's experience is slightly different and you don't know who would be most relatable to you. So talk to all of them and see what you. So that's how the first couple of weeks went after tearing my ACL. I was doing physio. I was seeing the physiotherapist every 2 weeks, and I was just progressing through getting the MRI and seeing a sports medicine doctor to see an orthopedic doctor. The plan is to reconstruct it. As soon as I knew my ACL was torn, I right away knew that I wanted to reconstruct it because I want to go back to the same level of activity. There's no doubt in my mind that I want to do the same stuff. I want to go downhill skiing again. I want to cross-country ski. I want to do all the activities that are extremely challenging without an ACL. And I wasn't going to change my lifestyle or try to adapt it in any ways. So right away, I made sure that I'm in line for hopefully an ACL reconstruction. So as the weeks went by and I had a chance to see an orthopedic surgeon about 3 months after the injury, we confirmed that surgery is a go-ahead, and I should be doing the surgery soon in May or June. Final date hasn't been confirmed yet. A couple of things that I want to talk about though about ACL construction and how you might go through it, and I'm talking about my own experience with the hopes that I'm able to help you. With work, it was interesting because the work that I do as a chemical engineer, I can do a lot of it from home, but there's aspects that would be better off if I'm doing it at site with the operators and the other engineers and work with folks to try to solve a problem. What I found is that my work was very accommodating and I was able to do all my work from home. It was tricky because I was spending all my time in bed. Like I wasn't. My knee was so swollen that I wouldn't even sit on a desk like how I'm seated right now talking to you. I was in bed, and that was extremely uncomfortable. Sitting in bed for 8 or 9 hours working, that was extremely uncomfortable. Um, in hindsight, I would recommend. I took a week off during the initial week that I was dealing with the injury. Um, and it varies from person to person, so you just gotta have a sense of where you're at. I would recommend taking 2 weeks off and going back to work when you can actually sit down on a chair and work. Working from bed, I think, was a horrible idea. I did that for about 2.5 weeks, and that was not easy, and I would not recommend. I was just sore, my back was hurting all the time. It wasn't a normal seated position, and I was doing it for a prolonged period of time, so I would not recommend doing it. I would recommend taking 2 weeks off and try to go back to work when you actually can sit down if you have the luxury of working from home or having a desk job. And then if your job requires you to be more active and out in the field and moving stuff, yeah, forget about it. I think the first couple of weeks, like I didn't start walking again normally with crutches and a brace for 3 weeks after the injury. So 3 weeks after, that's when I started walking with crutches and a brace. 4 weeks after, I ditched the crutches, and then 7 weeks or yeah, 7 weeks. That's at that point I ditched the brace. So it does take a little bit of time. Where I'm at now, I am at a place where my knee is very stable because my quad is strong, my hamstring is strong, and I really worked on my leg muscles to stabilize the knee with the absence of the ACL. I do still lack a little bit of mobility, and I have pain because of the torn meniscus, and that's the challenge. Is the meniscus is still a little bit inflamed, and I do feel that pain every now and then. As well, because of the meniscus and how it shifted, I did lose my full range of motion. I can't bend the knee all the way, and that is challenging as well with certain activities that I do, like for instance yoga. That's very hard to do now, just because I can't bend my knee the whole way. And then the stuff that I can do though, on the positive side, I can bike quite easily, and it's been a lot of fun biking again, and it's giving me a lot of strength in the knee and the leg to stabilize that knee. I'm going to a gym again, which is good. I haven't tried running, and I don't think I'll try running. Not yet, at least. I still feel the meniscus, it's not cooperating, and just the inflammation is a little bit annoying. I go for walks as well, which is good. I think I'm in a decent shape to hike. I'm not sure if I'm going to need to or I'm going to get a chance to hike with a torn ACL. I'm hoping the surgery happens sooner than later. So as soon as I go in for that surgery, then it's honestly, from what I understood, it feels like it's a repeat of as if I just tore my ACL. There's a period of time when I'm walking with crutches and a brace, and then after that I ditch the crutches and just the brace, and then I can ditch the brace and then I'm walking freely, a little bit limited, and slowly build up on the level of activities with the stuff that I can do as the physiotherapy allows me to. So that's kind of feels like a repeat of what I went through. It's just the difference is the end goal is that I end up with a fully functional knee after anywhere from 9 to 12 months, which right now I don't have a fully functional knee. I can't pivot, I can't do quick movements, my knee gives out. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm hoping that maybe by the summer of 2022, which, man, it seems so far away now. I'm hoping by then I'm going to be back to normal and I'm doing the same level of activities that I wanted to do this summer in 21. But it's fine. Live and learn. At least for me, it's fixable. That's something that I can fix, and I'm excited about fixing it. And I'll share my story with all of you. So please let me know your experience with tearing an ACL. If there's anything you have questions about or you're wondering, please ask them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to help out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.